What you got?
I would like to return to the poetry corner.
Hey!
Will you sing my theme music?
Yeah. Hey, baby, get on to the bus. We're going to the poetry corner. The bus has no seats or seatbelts. It's just some stools. It's not street legal, but that's okay. The poetry corner ain't far.
Oh, man, I should have asked for the abridged version, which is just the poetry corner ain't far.
Yeah. But I like sort of the imagery of like a bus, but instead of chairs, there's like nice poet stools. Mm-hmm. Did I make that up?
Like the Mystery Machine, but for poets?
Yeah.
I bet if you look in like a Pottery Barn catalog, you can buy a, quote, poet stool.
What's your poem this time?
The poem is called Thank You for Saying Thank You by Charles Bernstein.
Oh, the name is familiar.
There's a lot of Bernsteins in the world.
That is fair.
That's probably how you know him.
Thank you for saying thank you?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a really great poem.
I'm excited by how excited you are about it.
Charles Bernstein is a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. He's written more than 15 books of poems.
Go Cougars.
Is that right?
I have no fucking idea. Come on, baby.
Earlier, I wanted to talk about the World Cup, and Griffin told me that talking about sports when you don't know about sports is played.
This isn't sports. It's a school's general mascot.
Oh, is that still okay?
Yeah.
Okay. He was one of the originators of, quote, language poetry.
That's not all poetry?
Well, it became a thing in the 60s and 70s because it emphasizes the reader's role in bringing meaning out of work. It played down expression, seeing the poem as a construction in and of language itself.
Now, see, I preferred the works of Davy Coolstool, who came up with math poetry. And have you heard about this?
I would love to hear about this.
He has one that's like 8 times 8 is 60.
Wait, hold on, Griffin. I didn't get to do your Poetry Corner theme song.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
We got stanzas, we got stanzas, we got rhyming pentameter. It's the Poetry Corner with Griffin.
So anyway, Davy Coolstool wrote this real jazzy poem, and it's called, I'm sort of conflating jazz and poetry in my mind for this whole aesthetic of this segment.
That's fine.
But it's like 8 times 8 is 64, 12 times 7 is... 84, I think, and 9 times. So, let's get back in the real poetry corner.
So this is a poem I actually got to hear him read in person.
Oh, at school?
Yeah, he came to University of Chicago when I was there and performed this poem.
Let's hear it.
I'm charmed by it.
I'm very excited. Again, you're not in the studio, listener at home. Rachel is beaming. She is bouncing with anticipation. I'm so psyched. I'm going to have my mind blown.
I had to sit through your whole math cool stool while I was waiting.
Davy Coolstool.
Okay.
He did math poetry.
Yes. All right, I'm starting the poem now, and I'm saying that because it's going to start, and you're not going to believe that it started.
Okay, hold on, but is this the... Is this the poem? Okay.
I'm starting now. This is a totally accessible poem. There is nothing in this poem that is in any way difficult to understand. All the words are simple and to the point. There are no new concepts, no theories, no ideas to confuse you. This poem has no intellectual pretensions. It is purely emotional. It fully expresses the feelings of the author, my feelings, the person speaking to you now. It is all about communication. Heart to heart. This poem appreciates and values you as a reader. It celebrates the triumph of human imagination amidst pitfalls and calamities. This poem has 90 lines, 269 words, and more syllables than I have time to count. Each line, word, and syllable have been chosen to convey only the intended meaning and nothing more. This poem abjures obscurity and enigma. There is nothing hidden. 100 readers would each read the poem in an identical manner and derive the same message from it. This poem, like all good poems, tells a story in a direct style that never leaves the reader guessing. While at times expressing bitterness, anger, resentment, xenophobia, and hints of racism, its ultimate mood is affirmative. It finds joy even in those spiteful moments of life that it shares with you. This poem represents the hope for a poetry that doesn't turn its back on the audience, that doesn't think it's better than the reader, that is committed to poetry as a popular form, like kite flying and fly fishing. This poem belongs to no school, has no dogma, it follows no fashion. It says just what it says, it's real.
Did something happen? Did something happen to him to make him write this poem?
I mean, so he became a language poet because him and his friend started a magazine called Language, where they published a lot of poetry and basically started this whole movement. And we're always kind of resistant to being part of a movement. Language poetry, as a reminder, emphasizes the reader's role in bringing meaning out of work. It plays down expression, seeing the poem as a construction in and of language itself.
That seems like a really tricky needle to thread without writing a poem explicitly like this.
I find this approach kind of charming. It's like super obviously self-referential.
Sure.
But it also kind of addresses any potential criticism he might ever get.
Right.
Which I think is kind of incredible.
What I'm saying is, like, was it born out of that criticism? Because so much of that sounded so shit-eating grin, like...
He's like an academic. He studied philosophy in school. He does a lot of translation. His approach to poetry and teaching is very scholarly.
So probably no stranger to, like, literary criticism.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure if he wrote this after he entered academia, but a lot of his poems are very... like tongue-in-cheek. So I really like this poem. It was really charming to see him read it because I had been going to readings every month, I would say, while I was in graduate school and seeing a lot of very like heavy-handed, dense, like very abstract poems. And I just felt so delighted to sit here and have this guy kind of guide me through his poem in this way that was very much like, hey, we're all doing something a little silly here right now.
I can't imagine being the kind of poet who would do the other thing of just, and I'm not saying it's without, virtue or whatever.
It happens though.
Yeah.
It happens. It definitely happened to me. Like you're reading all of these like very scholarly texts and you're around all these people that are very intellectual and you just feel this pressure to be more and more indirect with what you're trying to do. And I think a lot of people would say this as musicians or as visual artists or photographers. Like you start to feel this external pressure of like everything has to be under a veil, and if somebody gets my context right away, then I'm not doing anything particularly mysterious or talented.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate this poem, especially as it goes on. And he says, the line, 100 readers would each read the poem in an identical manner and derive the same message from it.
Yeah, that was very good. That's a very good poem.
Yeah, I thought I would share that.
I've liked every poem you've brought. This really has been you got great taste.
I've got very good taste.
But like, I didn't like many poems. I liked like the that one E. Cummings one that was all right, and then like
Shel Silverstein.
Oh yeah, I guess
that was kind of that was my jumping off point into poetry.
But now I like so much more because of this great segment on this fun podcast we do together as lovers.
Thank you.